sure marami tayong mga tanong, but let's finish with one of the speakers and then we'll open the floor to questions. So ang pangalawang speaker natin si Jose Antonio Custodio. So he'll talk on the military side of it.
I have no PowerPoint. Sorry. I'm just going to ramble about Philippine military, which I always do. I am not in a flat polo now, so I will not curse. That being said, when the previous administration stepped down, it handed over, believe it or not, a very stable security environment to the successor. No? It was very stable. No? You had the peace process with the MILF. Okay, it was it was really a tough challenge. At the same time, the CPP-NPA had gone down considerably. In 2016, it numbered 3,500 thereabouts, official figures from the Philippine military. And the motive was being contained. There was very good coordination between the armed forces of the Philippines and the Philippine National Police, especially in matters of terrorism. The Chinese were on the defensive in the West Philippine Sea. That all changed in a span of 1 year. Okay. As of now, the Philippine military is overwhelmed. It's overstretched. It has engaged. It is engaged in many fronts, and the reason for that is primarily because of the Duterte administration has not come up with a holistic approach to national security. It practically has, as if it doesn't have any concept of national security. I say that because I used to work in the national security sector, and there is little coordination going on. So I remember several officers were telling me late last year that before they would even coordinate with the PNP regarding their statements, okay, in public, but now they would not. There's nothing. No? Why? Because the administration seems to be hell-bent on something else, which we all know what it is. Why is, I think that thing is linked with what Professor Miriam was talking about a while ago, the aspect of political change. Okay, it's not really a drug war, it's something else. There's a reason for the drug war, it's something else. But I will not go into that. I'm just saying that the effect of such a focus on that particular program of the campaign of the government distracted so many assets that were needed for monitoring, okay, the security situation in the Philippines. And lo and behold, you suddenly had the situation in Marawi, which I think it has to do with the lack of focus, okay? Because we have this black hole from July of 2016 up to May of 2017, there's this black hole of what was really going on there. Because, like I said, the institutions were just focusing on the drugs, okay? Now, for the military, they face now a growing CPP-NPA threat. Why? Well, the effect again of the Duterte administration's peace process with the CPP-NPA sort of was something that did not really take into consideration all the lessons learned in the past when dealing with the CPP-NPA. He gave plenty of very generous concessions to the other side, and we saw that in the cabinet appointments, in the agency appointments, and but that wasn't just the only thing. It was the lack also of guidance to the units on the field, okay, and the Philippine military itself, and this brought about the problem of what to do. Okay, many units were left to their own devices on how to contain, how to deal. So many of them just ended up monitoring. So what was monitoring? Kasi may on-off hot code the peace process, so you don't really know where it's going. So ikaw, units ka on the field, ano gagawin mo? So you just, like, standby muna tayo, let's monitor, let's try to do some punitive action. First, standby, kasi wala tayong but these are actually not very advisable. I'll explain why in the long run. So total, the left, the underground left, started growing again. By some officers have stated that at most nakapagdagdag sila ng 1,000 new rebel fighters, no? Pero at the very least, at least hundreds more were added, no? Wala talagang definite. But the thing was that was more another thing was that they started to re-enter areas that had been cleared of presence, no? Of the CPPNP presence. And then, yung isa pa dito was that the government, the government itself was trapped, okay, in a strange situation. Why? When governments, kasi they function on a full of government approach. No? I mean, Professor Ferrer would understand that very much when they had their tough deal of fighting for the peace process with them, and how many consultative efforts have been going on in order to merge to get the government into a coordinative, coherent approach to whatever problem there is. No? And ginawa ni Duterte was that putting in all of these strange people and then mixing them with other strange people, like coming from especially the national security sector, created a strategic problem on top. No? Hindi alam ng gagawin ngayon kasi agencies were suspicious of each other. No? Yun yung like for example, I remember some officers would complain that may ginagawa ata itong kabilang agency na staff with this certain person from the, and they're talking about, for example, the DSWD. No? In other words, it created distrust. And when you have a distrust, it's bad. No? And more so for the Philippines, it's bad because we are not strangers to man-made or natural tragedies. No? For example, ngayon meron tayong Battle of Marawi, which I have already said is the longest battle in Philippine history for all intents and purposes. No? I think it's really longer than the Battle of Bataan. No? Kasi hindi pa tapos hanggang ngayon. No? And we're just looking at the city of Marawi. No? Hindi pa natin titignan yung surrounding areas. No? And you have 500,000, nearing 400,000 displaced people there. Pero aside from the money that they're pledging, that you've heard, what's the overall plan? No? Okay, you have Lorenzana as the head of the martial law thingy there, no? But anong ginagawa ng ibang agencies? No? Saan sila? What is the coordinated? When, for example, the DSWD now, which is supposed to be one of the key agencies, is still staffed by people that the military still suspects. No? So wala kang whole of government approach. No? And that creates a immediate and long-term problem. No? Hindi mo ma-address kagad. So I have a bad feeling about Marawi, the cost situation. No? And, now, to point out the overstretch of the AFP now is that you only have 120,000 men in the 125,000 men. Yung mga CAFGO, I really don't want to include the CAFGO kasi although officially they are seen as force multipliers. No? It's a nice cute term that they say, they use. Force multiplier, may pangdagdag tao yan, pangdagdag cannon fodder yan. But the thing is that, itong mga to are, sometimes they're more of a liability in certain instances because nagiging private army yan or whatever, no? So you're still there with 120,000 thereabouts na sundalo. No? But they're separated into AFP, the AFP is separated into 3 services, di ba? Meron kang army, which is the dominant force. We have the Navy, and then you have the Air Force, no? These 3 share in that 120,000. So siguro sa Army, nasa 70 thereabouts yan, no? 70,000 thereabouts, no? Yung Air Force, mga 20, 15 to 20, mga ganon. Yung Navy, mga ganon din, mga 15, 20, something like that, no? So, but, may ratio yan. When you have a military, 120,000 military, may ratio yan ng kung ano ang nasa field, no? That's why I'm saying it's overstretched. Bakit? Usually the rule is 1/3 are in the field, the rest are in admin support, no? Or too old to fight kasi mag-retire na. Why? Because the AFP, no, the plan sana kasi of the AFP was for it to become a parang copy of the US military. Volunteer, tapos volunteer force and may reserve, no? And along the decades, alam mo naman, Pinoy Pinoy tayo, galing natin mag-ewan ko no? So, nangyari? Naging employment agency siya, no? It's one of the biggest employment agencies in the Philippines now, the Philippine military. Why am I saying this? Kasi yung dapat umaalis, hindi umaalis, they keep on staying on, no? Na nagre-re-enlist, so ang dami matatanda, no? Kung pag pumasok ka sa kampo, ang dami mo makikita matanda doon, no? Na ano to, baka pag tumakbo ka, mamatay sa atake sa puso, which is actually happening, no? Minsan pag may mga athletics, namamatay sa athletics yung mga sundalo, kasi tanda tanda sila, promise. No, the thing is that, so 1/3, so what is 1/3 of 120,000? History major ako, hindi ako engineering. What's 1/3 of 120,000? Yung 40, di ba? Very good. So 40,000. Yung 40,000, yan ang naka-face sa field. Yun. Now, let's make a nice dito. How many are they facing naman? This AFP. The MILF, which is the More Islamic Liberation Front, I would like to be very clear here, okay? Is around 12,000 thereabouts, no? You cannot disregard them. No, even though if you have an existing base process, you cannot disregard them because of the nature of the MILF. Being, minsan wala talaga siyang, may problema sa local units, no? Na kinikikisaw-saw sa ibang mga units and so on and so forth. So, there's still a force to reckon with, no? Meron kang 12,000, tapos as of now, nearing 5,000 daw ulit ang NPA. No? From 336, lumampas ng 4,000, nearing 5,000. That's according to some unofficial sources na. No? So, they're going back to mga first decade of 21st century numbers again. Ng ganun tipo. Siyempre, marami silang kabig, marami silang everywhere. It's a long story. So, yun. We only have 10 minutes na lang. No? So, that. So, may ganun. So, how many na ngayon? 17 na yan, di ba? Mga 17, thereabouts, no? May maote ka. Don't think that, may 500 na matay na maote, pero madaling ma-replace yan sa awa ng Diyos. Di ba? Madaling ma-replace yan. Dami yan, no? Baka kumuha sa ibang units, sa ibang mga rebel groups or private armed groups yan, no? But so, sabihin, then may Abu Sayyaf ka pa, na may 500 din yan, no? Tapos, meron kang private armed groups na problema din ng Philippine military, no? Kasi yung PNP, minsan kung silbihan pagdating sa mga private armed groups, no? Baka minsan sila pa mga private armed groups. So there, no? So the thing is that, ano ba ang ratio ngayon? 20,000 yan. Ang naka-face sa 40,000. Anong ratio? 2:1. No? So, kapag nagkaroon ng major operation ng AFP, nade-denude yung ibang area. Kapag nade-denude yung ibang area, yung CPP-NP ngayon, rumarang pa. No? Like, give you a classic example. Because of the Marawi battle, this was sometime July, they pulled out a battalion in Iloilo. Pagka-pull out ng battalion in Iloilo, bumanat ka agad yung CPP-NP in several towns. in that area, no? So yun, kita mo yung overstretch ka agad, no? Then you can see here that this is entirely different from martial law in 72, the AFP in 1972, no? Then when Marcos declared martial law in 1972, he had an AFP that was not overstretched, no? Wala pa naman more campaigns pa noon, hindi pa pumuputok yan, no? CPP was how many? Wala pa atang 500 nung time na yan, no? Tapos, with all due respect, kung mayroong veterano ng CPP-NPA dito, medyo patanga-tanga ng konti yung leadership kasi they wanted to replicate the Isabela, ano ba yung sa Isabela? They wanted to replicate yung Yonan strategy ni Mao. This is a small island Luzon. We do not do that. So anyway, because of the revolutionary fervor, binugbog sila tuloy naman na to ng AFP. Kung hindi lang sa Mindanao campaigns in the mid-70s, siguro durug na yung CPP-NPA, but because of the Mindanao campaigns, nabuhay it was able to expand. But again, in 1972, hindi pa, wala pa yan, no? So Marcos generated a national security threat, no? So fake news was not new, no? It was ever since, no? So we've always been engaged in fake news. So Marcos generated a illusion of a threat, no, that wasn't there because to cover up a personal agenda. And because of that, what was the lesson learned? When you generated a threat that wasn't there and you had a different, everything just went to pot after that. No? So, ang difference ngayon is that the AFP is overstretched. So kung magpa-martial law ka, your tools are overstretched. Your PNP is in limbo. Why? Because, not just because of Takirang Iyakin, but because of the fact that, what it's doing is reprehensible to even a lot of PNP officers, no? Kaya masasabi, may PNP na berdugo, meron talaga, but may PNP na may konsyensya, no? Yung mga yan, naghahanap ng assignment yan, kung saan pupunta yan, no? But that's it, your tools are not sharp. So your capacity to declare martial is there. Believe me, the AFP will follow it. If Duterte says martial law bukas, martial law bukas yan. Gagamitin yung AFP and PNP, gagamitin yan. But the problem is sustainability. No? Yung sustainability ang problema. Kaya ba niyan i-sustain? Now, the problem is, may pattern na tayo since for the past 30 years, may pattern sa AFP. Kapag nagkakaroon ng major casualties ang AFP, may tendency mag-gripe yan. Pag nag-gripe ang AFP, may tendency na maghahanap ngayon ng mga pwedeng sisihin, no? Usually ang sinisisi, politiko, no? But sometimes sisisihin din nila yung ibang nasa taas, no? Kasi ganito yan, mahirap kasi yung magkaroon ka ng sip-sip buto sa command, no? Kasi if you have a military na mahilig mag-gripe, no? Tapos may sip-sip buto ka sa chief of staff or whatever, magkakaroon ka ng alternate na chain of command ng DORAS, no? Nangyari yan ilang beses na sa atin, no? Sa the past 30 years, no? Especially during the time of Gloria, nakita yan, no? Erap and Gloria, nakita yan, no? And that's the thing now. The Magdalo Group was triggered, the Magdalo Group, what sparked the Magdalo Group was the combination of casualties and corruption in the military, casualties incurred in the Abu Bakar campaign of 2000, and corruption that was happening. Kasi yun na yung problema. At the time I was working in Aguinaldo then as an analyst at the plants, J5 plants, and yun nga, mayroon kang horrendous casualties na dumaan. For Philippine standards, horrendous na yan, no? Kasi, yan, no? Hundreds, wounded, then scores being killed, you know. Meron naman final tally kung ilan namatay sa Abu Bakar campaign sa Philippines, sa military side. No? But it's high, no? It was the highest since the 1970s, no? So, and then meron kang mga corruption na nangyayari sa AFP na mga K9 na purchases, na bakit nangyayari yan, and so on and so forth, some officers getting So, yun, nag-trigger yan, no? And then you had a mutiny, no? So, what does us all want to do now is that Oo nga, pwede kang mag-martial law, no? But is your military up to it, no? But because of the nangyari sa Marawi, you have to take into consideration now na napapagod na rin yung military mo, no? Why? 140 have been killed already, eh. And you're just talking about a small area in the Philippines, which is Marawi. Hindi pa natin na-factor in dito yung backlash ng Marawi campaign, no? Hindi pa natin na-factor in yan, eh, no? Maraming ugong nangyayari ngayon. Even sa MINF, may mga ugong ngayon dyan, no? Na it's dangerous, no? Kasi nga, may mga kabataan na trip na nila yung maote, no? So yung MINF, may pressure din ngayon, lalo na how do you control your lower units, no? Kasi kung hindi mo control yan, mamaya sasabihin nila, 500 lang ginamit sa Marawi. No? Halos kalahating taon, tied down yung military, tapos kayo, anong ginagawa ninyo sa MI? God damn. Ganun, no? So yun, no? Those are the things, no? You still have, the military has to contend with that, no? And recently, there was this very interesting news item of a corporal in 7th Infantry Division na you read about that? Nagsabi na may mga corruption nangyari sa payroll or something. No, it was in 7th Infantry Division is in Central Luzon. Oo. So, ano yan? Meron ganun. So, may umuulong na naman na corruption, no? So, the problem here is that, ito yung kawawang nila ng AFP with all this, is that walang, unlike other militaries, meron konsepto ng rest and recreation, kumbaga, for the unit, no? Sa AFP, walang ganun. From a hot area, ipo-pull out yan, itatapon sa next hot area. No? Then, kapag nag-stabilize na yung hot area na yan, ibabalik yan, if ever, ibalik siya. No? Back to its original hot area. Some units will not return anymore. One such unit was the 1st Infantry Division, yung Tabak. Nung height ng Mindanao campaigns in the 1970s, from Luzon, tinapon siya sa Mindanao. Hindi na bumalik. Nandun siya. Diba? Ganun. No? So those are the things. And what I'm saying is that, anong effect yan sa sundalo? No? Ang effect yan is either mag-amok ka or mag-gripe ka na. And then everything starts. So, yun ang problema ng the government has to contend with, no? Is the fact that dali ka magsalita tungkol sa martial law. Dali, no? Gusto niya mag-implement ang martial law, dali gawin din yun, no? He can just order them and they will follow. Just like how the AFP followed the order to bury Marcos. They did it, no? They followed it. Kasi sabi ni Chief, sabi ni Commander-in-Chief, ilibing dun, ilibing namin. Coordinate kami sa Marcos family, happy, joy. Nakalibing siya dun. Kapag sinabi ni Commander-in-Chief, martial kayo bukas, sige. They will protest, no? In meetings, they will protest. But if it's firm, they'll susunod yan. But alam nila yung repercussions, and they will have to know it's really the character of the person there in the chain of command, no? If he is like the current one now, then baka ma-manage pa niya kung ano yung problema, no? Pero if he was like the previous one, like Bisaya, ewan ko, no? Kung anong mangyayari, no? So this new guy coming in, this is a toss-up between Guerrero and Galvez. Galvez, you worked with Galvez, di ba, no? He's a nice guy, but he seems to have been burned by Marawi. Yun ang unfortunately. He seems to be burned by Marawi. So baka ngayon napupunta kay Guerrero naman daw. But so the character of these people, if they aslick too much, no, then they will not be able to control the military. So, next thing you know, magkakaroon ng mga minor mutinies na yan. So that's the situation now, no? Ironically, and I will end I will end my talk with this. Ironically, ginusto nila eh. In a way, many of them in the military, ginusto din nila yung nangyari. Why? Why am I saying this, no? Am I going to be quoted here? Don't quote me on this. Wala nang medyas, no? Laman bayaran medyas dito. So there. Why am I saying? Kasi marami nag-support kay Duterte. Bakit marami nag-support kay Duterte? Because macho eh. So daming sumuporta. Ayun. Wala palang strategic plan para itong taong to. Ayun, suffer, no? Why did they support Duterte? Why? Because of the previous administration. No? Perceptions of kahinaan ng previous administration. The peace process, no, rubbed many in the AFP the wrong way. Yun ang problema, no? So, for example, this is ironic. In many of the briefings that you were conducting, no, di ba magbabait nila, di ba? Pag napupunta sa siya, ano lalaki, Diyos ko, Sus Mario Joseph, doon lumalabas lahat na ba nagsasabi nila. Ganun. Di ba, na-encounter nyo rin. So, okay, yan. And then, that would, ano to, kasi meron din kasi segment sa AFP na the solution to rebellion is 500 pounds of high explosive. Ganun, no? Meron ganun eh, may element yan eh, no? Because a military is an authoritarian entity, no? And that's the thing, no? So when they see authoritarian symbols, natutuwa sila doon. Same thing with the US military. Dinoto nila si Trump eh. Kasi authoritarian si Trump eh, dating yan. So tuwa sila kay Trump. So what matters? So AFP was like that, no? So many of them supported Duterte, no? Although marami din ng critical sa kanya, but there's a segment that supported, no? And when that happened, it was, he said, peace process, no? And of course, to some extent also, it was, especially the officers, it was the former Secretary of National Defense. The personality ni Jasmine. It rubbed many aspiring officers the wrong way. So, they hitched their wagon on the Duterte stallion, or so they thought. Okay. So there. So what can we do now? We just have us. We have to remain vigilant, you know. And if ever any of us three go to jail, okay, maybe some of you will just replace us. Thank you very much.